All right, so let's talk about the aftermath or the results of World War I here. Okay, so after the war, our economy's in turmoil. Rapid inflation results when government agencies remove the controls they had set on the American economy. So of course, if you don't remember what inflation is, it's the cost of living, increases the cost of living. Inflation does. Cost of food, clothing, shelter, and other essentials that people need, they all go up. Okay. Now, while workers needed higher wages to keep up with the cost of living, companies wanted to lower wages due to an increase in operating costs. So the number of members in unions increased greatly during the war, okay, because they're better able to organize, and unions were better organized than previous to the war. Okay, business leaders wanted to break the power of these unions, so the result of these factors was a large number of strikes immediately following the war. Okay, so some of the strikes that took place, general strikes, strikes that involve all workers living in a certain location, worried Americans because they were commonly used in Europe by communists and other radicals. The Seattle General Strike involved more than 60,000 people and brought the city to a halt for 5 days. In 1919, 75% of the police force of Boston went on strike. Governor of Massachusetts, Calvin Coolidge, he called in the National Guard to stop looting as a result of this. Now, when the police tried to return to work, Coolidge basically fired them, and a new police force was hired to replace them. One of the largest strikes in American history took place when 350,000 steel workers went on strike for higher pay, shorter hours, and recognition of the union. Their strike failed. The failure of the strike set back the union cause in the steel industry almost until 1937. Okay, after the war, you have more racial unrest. In the summer of 1919, you have race riots that occur in the northern cities of the United States. They were caused by the return of hundreds of thousands of American soldiers who needed to find employment. African Americans who had moved north to work were now competing for these same jobs as the soldiers. Now, the worst violence occurred in Chicago, where whites and African Americans entered into each other's neighborhoods and attacked one another. This violence lasted almost 2 weeks. All right, so after World War I, you also have our first Red Scare. Americans associated communism with disloyalty and unpatriotic behavior. So the numerous strikes in the U.S. in 1919 made Americans fear that communists or the Reds might take control. So this led to the nationwide panic known as the Red Scare. The Postal Service had intercepted some 30 parcels addressed to leaders in the business and political arena that were set to explode upon opening. No, that's not good. One bomb damaged the home of United States Attorney General A. Mitchell Palmer. So, although no one ever took responsible for the packages, most people felt it was communists or revolutionaries trying to destroy the American way of life. So Palmer, he set up a special division in the Justice Department called the General Intelligence Division, headed by J. Edgar Hoover. Today, this is known as the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or the FBI. Now, Palmer organized raids on various radical organizations, mostly rounding up immigrants who were then deported or expelled from their country, largely, most of the time, on very little evidence, too. Okay, and after World War I, in large part, you see an end to the Progressive Era. Warren G. Harding won the election in 1920 with a campaign that called for a return to normalcy or return to the simpler days before the Progressive Era reform started. Harding ends up winning the election by a landslide. The American people like the idea of returning to a simpler time. We still do that today. We think about the 1950s as the greatest time ever. But, so, that concludes this video, and this is our discussion on World War I and its aftermath. Look forward to discussing it with you in class, and as always, look forward to maybe a short quiz on Edmodo or something like that. Thank you.